So with fame and money comes a lot of power. Some people say that money is synonymous with power, and I don't completely disagree. In Hollywood, when people commit crimes, a lot of them are swept under the rug, twisted into something else by fixes, or you just throw enough money at the problem that it becomes a non-issue. Or you could hire an elite god squad of lawyers and get them to convince a jury you're not guilty when the blood is literally still on your face. That didn't happen, but I'm just painting the image. What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and welcome back to another video. Now, I've been loving the Hollywood-related videos I've been doing recently, and this one is no exception. Time to go behind the scenes with the top 10 scary crimes committed by Hollywood. Starting us off at number 10 is Christian Brando. I always get so excited when I talk about anything Marlon Brando related, just because he was so hot and such an amazing actor. I would definitely have been a fangirl, groupie. You know what I mean? But this story is not nearly as happy as I sound right now. So Christian was Marlon's only child with Anna Kashfi, but he had 10 other half-siblings. Christian's upbringing was rough. He was bounced between his mum and dad over a 12-year custody battle. Marlon finally won it by the time Christian was 13, but by then he already called his son a basket case of emotional disorder. In May of 1990, Cheyenne, one of Marlon's kids, was at his house in Beverly Hills visiting her parents. Christian was there as well, and this was a sibling he had had a lot of interactions with growing up, so he was close to Cheyenne. She had been dating Dag Drollett for 4 years at the time and was 8 months pregnant with his child. On the fateful night in question, Christian and Cheyenne went out for dinner at Musso and Frank Grill, where she revealed that Dag was physically abusive. Later that night, Christian was drunk and confronted Dag and then shot a gun at him. Not trying to kill him, just trying to scare him, which I don't get. How do you shoot someone and be like, oh, just kidding, don't hit my sister again? Either way, the two got into a fight over the gun and it accidentally went off, killing Dag. It was found out later that Cheyenne had major mental health issues and was most likely lying about getting beaten by Dag. Brando was charged with murder but not convicted since Cheyenne could not show up as a witness since Marlon had her admitted to a psychiatric hospital. He later pled guilty to manslaughter and went to jail for 5 years. Cheyenne, on the other hand, tried killing herself twice during the trial and eventually killed herself a year before he got out of prison after losing custody of her own son. Damn, the Brandos have baggage. Also, a disclaimer, is it Cheyenne or Cheyenne, people? Somebody tell me. Coming in at number 9 is LANA Clarkson. Now, LANA wasn't a super well-known actress by any means, but she had been in a few films like Barbarian Queen, The Haunting of Morella, Vice Girls, etc. She also volunteered every week to help the AIDS and HIV cause, which kind of helps illustrate what kind of person she was. In February of 2003, LANA was at record producer Phil Spector's house in California. His driver was waiting in the car outside, and early in the morning he heard a gunshot and then saw Phil leaving from the back door with a gun. He got in the car and said, "I think I just shot her." "Yeah, I think you did, mate." Phil was adamant on the fact that her death was an accidental suicide and that she was giving the gun a kiss when it just went off. And I mean, her wounds do corroborate the story. She was shot in the mouth. Forensics couldn't find Phil's prints on the gun anywhere, but he had had a history of doing this. There had been 4 previous accounts of him pulling a gun on women he had been interested in after they had rejected him. The first murder trial was a mistrial since it was a hung jury. The second trial tried him on second-degree murder, and this time he was found guilty and sent to jail. Also, this guy looks like a freaking creep. At number 8, we have O.J. Simpson. I feel like it was really no surprise that O.J. was going to be on this list. Now, O.J. was a huge football star back in the day and was tried for the murders of his wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman. Could be lover, we're not sure. Now, in June of 1994, both people were found stabbed to death outside Nicole's home, and OJ was the main suspect. OJ was supposedly not in town when the murder took place, but eyewitnesses saw him speeding in his car away from the crime scene. The two had a tumultuous relationship, and Nicole had written in her diary that he was abusive and that she was scared he was gonna kill her one day. OJ refused to turn himself in and was the subject of a high-speed police car chase. Ultimately, despite the stack of evidence against him, his lawyers were God-sent and twisted the case in such a way using race and other factors to get a not guilty conviction. Even though I feel like low-key everyone knows that OJ did it. Producer Chris, do you think OJ did it?
Oh yeah.
You know, it's obvious. People come out the womb knowing he did it. Filling at number 7 slot is Phil Rudd, who I thought was the father of Paul Rudd, but is not. so do not make the same mistake I did. Now if you're a big fan of rock music, then this man needs no introduction, but if you aren't, Phil Rudd is a drummer in a little known band called AC/DC. And yes, I know rock stars live a hard, fast life filled with drugs and groupies and little mental stability, I get that. But Phil went a bit too far. In 2010 he was convicted of having 25 grams of weed on his boat, but later had that squashed so he could go on tour with the band. But that's not even the bad bit, that's negligible in comparison to this. So in 2014 he was arrested and charged for attempting to procure a murder, aka hiring a hitman to kill 2 people, as well as possession of meth and weed. Now it's unclear who he was trying to kill, but the murder charge was dropped the following day for an undisclosed reason. Phil then pled guilty to all the other charges and was sentenced to 8 months of house arrest and had to pay a fine of 120,000 New Zealand dollars. Now at number 6 is Josh Duggar. I had never even heard of the show 19 Kids and Counting. I thought John and Kate plus 8 was bad enough. Now Josh was on the reality TV show with his parents and 18 younger siblings. Yes, 18. Their bills must have been hella expensive, and also, oh my god, how can a woman give birth that many times? Imagine sending them off to university, oh my god, the fees! And the show quickly got cancelled in 2015 after allegations surfaced of Josh having molested 5 girls who were not of age when he was about 14 or 15. The worst part was that the girls were actually his own younger sisters. Josh confessed to his parents that he would usually touch them while they were asleep, and once when they were awake and they didn't know what to do except tell the church elders. He was forced into doing a bunch of physical labor, but his parents hid what he had done from the public for the most part. I'm sorry, this kid molested others as a teen. I don't think physical labor is gonna make it go away, but whatever. Coming in at number 5 is Phil Hartman. This is the second Phil on this list. The former SNL star joined the show in 1986 and stayed on for a period of 8 seasons because his impressions were that good. He was married twice before marrying model and aspiring actress Bryn Omdahl in 1987. In May the next year, Bryn went for dinner with her friend before coming home. When she got home, Bryn and Phil got into an intense argument, and afterwards he decided to just sleep on it and go to bed. Around 3 AM, Bryn went into their bedroom and shot him in the head, throat and chest, killing him on the spot. Now it's important to note that she had been drinking that night, she was on coke and was also taking Zoloft. She then rushed to her friend Ron's house where she told him everything, and of course he was like, yeah, okay Bryn, go to bed. But then they both drove back to her house and she showed him what had happened. Ron immediately called 911 and the police escorted the couple's children out of the house. By this point, Bryn was super paranoid and had locked herself in the bedroom and later killed herself by shooting herself. Apparently, Bryn had a bit of an anger management problem and the LAPD concluded Phil's murder was caused by their earlier fight. And number 4 is Selena Quintanilla Perez Part 1. The Mexican-American singer needs no introduction whatsoever. Now Selena was a massive star in the 90s and everyone loved her. Well, not everyone. Selena's good friend Yolanda Saldivar was part of her inner circle. You know, she was president of her fan club, she managed Selena's boutiques, and the girls were proper friends. Or so she thought. At the end of 1994, her boutiques weren't doing too well and her employees would regularly complain about Yolanda and how she would just fire people simply because she didn't like them. Even Selena's dad warned her about Yolanda, but she refused to listen because her devotion to Selena was almost obsessive. Fans started calling Selena's dad because they had paid a fee to be a member of the fan club but had gotten nothing in return. Turns out Yolanda had embezzled more than $30,000 in forged checks from the fan club and the boutiques. The dad obviously confronted her about it and told her to never contact Selena again, but Selena didn't want to stop being friends. Yolanda had so many bank statements and records that Selena needed, so they met up at the end of March 1995. Filling at number 3 slot is Selena Quintanilla Perez Part 2. The girls went to a medical clinic because apparently Yolanda had been assaulted in Mexico. The examination happened as per usual, and then the two went to Yolanda's hotel room at the Days Inn in Corpus Christi. The two got into a fight over the financial papers, and before Selena even knew what was going on, Yolanda had grabbed a gun from her purse and was now pointing it straight at her. When Selena tried to run, she was shot on the right shoulder, causing her to lose a lot of blood. She still somehow ran to the lobby and left a 119-meter trail of blood behind her, all the while Yolanda was chasing after her, calling her a Selena told the lobby person it was Yolanda who did this, and as she tried to flee, was caught by a responding police officer. She was convicted of first-degree murder and got the maximum sentence of life in prison with possibility of parole after 30 years. Apparently, Selena had bled so much because Yolanda had hit her subclavian artery. Now at number 2 is Marvin Gaye. The infamous singer-songwriter extraordinaire had a tough upbringing. He never really got along with his dad, Marvin Gaye Sr., who was a Christian minister. He regularly beat the kids, and the fact that Marvin Jr. was not only cross-dressing, but gay was a lot for his dad to handle. In April of 1984, Marvin's parents were having an argument about a misplaced insurance policy letter. Marvin Jr. was getting angry at the way his dad was treating his mom, so he told him to leave her alone. Jr. told him that if he had something to say it in person, so Marvin Sr. walked up to his room and started verbally abusing his wife, and then Marvin Jr. got involved. I'm just saying Jr. and Sr. so you know who I'm talking about, you guys. And they started arguing. Jr. pushed him and started beating him, and keep in mind the old man had always said if his kids ever dared to hit him, he'd kill the person. So 8 minutes later, Marvin Sr. re-entered Jr.'s room and shot him directly in the heart. That already killed him, but his dad shot him again and was later arrested. But apparently his siblings believe Marvin's death was a premeditated. Right before he died, he whispered, "I got what I wanted. I couldn't do it myself, so I had him do it. It's good. I ran my race. There's no more left in me." Him being shot put himself out of his misery, brought peace to his mum because now his dad was going to jail, and he got to punish his dad because he's probably going to be in jail for the rest of his life. And finally, at number 1 is Mark Wahlberg, who apparently was a massively racist bully in his teens. In 1986, he was sued along with his 2 friends by the Massachusetts Attorney General for throwing rocks and yelling racial slurs at 3 black kids. Apparently the friends saw the victims walking home from school and shouted, "We don't like black N-word in the neighborhood, so get the F away from the area." The group then shouted, "Kill the N-word," while throwing rocks at them. Mark was also accused of throwing rocks at random white students as well, and the case was eventually settled with him agreeing not to assault, intimidate, or threaten anyone because of their race. All the while, he was still maintaining his innocence. I'm sorry, who the hell throws rocks at someone because they're a different race? That all happened when he was 14. Now let's move on to when he was 16. In 1988, Mark attacked a Vietnamese man called Tan Lam who was just walking down the street. He called the man Vietnam, hitting him in the head with a 5 feet long stick and knocking him unconscious. And he even told the police he split the guy's head open, but before the police even caught up to him, he ran into another Vietnamese man and punched him in the eye and tackled him to the ground. Like, what is wrong with you, bro? The man ended up becoming permanently blind in that eye, and Mark was arrested for attempted murder and pled guilty to 2 counts of criminal contempt. And that is it for today's video, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and let me know which one of these cases you already knew about. OJ, Ovs, Selena most likely, but let me know the others. As always, I'm your host Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!